quickly about SOSV, I think Kristen has covered it, so I'm going to be very quick. So we're a fund of over 600 million under management. We have over 800 startups in portfolio, mostly at very early stage. We're one of the most active lead investors globally in the early stage. We're third most active last year, according to Crunchbase. Very active in IoT, health tech. Our model is to invest at the lab prototype stage and then to follow on in the best companies at the later stages, seed and Series A. So we start with a lot of volume, we get them through our accelerator programs in hardware and life sciences, and then we keep investing in the companies. Those are offices around the world. So I used to be based in Shenzhen, on China at large, on Asia at large actually for quite a while. Now gravitate toward Europe and the US. Our big offices for hardware are in San Francisco and Shenzhen. And we like to call ourselves hands-on capital because of the resources we deploy for the startups. We have labs for life sciences. So if you go to Jesse Street in San Francisco, it's a little bit like the Breaking Bad underground laboratory, something like that. The one in Shenzhen is right in the middle of the electronics market. If some of you have visited Shenzhen and Huaqiangbei, it's actually quite impressive to see what's going on around. And that's what also is helping those companies prototype faster. It's really all about speed of like shortening the prototyping cycles. We have a lot of experts in-house. In Shenzhen, we have about 30 people with experts in things from design, manufacturing, sourcing, but also marketing, strategy, and we're in the middle of very unique ecosystems. So this is the SOSV team. We have about 100 people in the firm, a lot of them in operations. And some of our portfolio companies, like an early investment, is a education robots company called MakeBlock from China. Now the valuation is about close to $400 million. Memphis Meat, you might have heard of, created this expensive meatball. We're trying to get the price down so you can enjoy it. BitMEX, if anybody buying crypto, holding crypto? I'm holding crypto, very sad. But those guys are not holding crypto, they're a crypto exchange, they're actually the largest exchange, and they specialize in derivative products. So if crypto is not enough, just buy derivative crypto, and you're gonna help them make money, maybe you'll make money too. They're printing millions of dollars a day, essentially. We're also investors in Formlabs, a company from the area, right? Get around, and then a few companies we're investors in and exited. One is Rock Band, Harmonix, the company that made Rock Band, and Jump Bikes, you might know, bike sharing acquired by Uber, and we were a lead investor in that one. Those are more recent investments in the hardware space. So digital therapy device, so we're way beyond what Fitbit could do. Fitbit's a 10-year-old company. We're not just tracking, we're actually treating conditions now with some devices. We also have diagnostic devices, lab tools, inspection robots. We do a lot of boring robots, lots of them. We love those boring robots. And then also some consumer tech, even though it's a small part of our portfolio now. You can see here the headphones that Stevie Wonder is using. There's a company called Neura, and those headphones can actually adapt to your hearing. They adapt to how you hear to create a personal equalizer. So, summarize about us, global early stage fund, very hands-on, focus on pre-seed, which is why we're trying to develop relationships with more VCs around the world, because our startups are all around the world. About half the portfolio is in North America, a quarter in Asia, a quarter in Europe. And we invest about 150 companies a year, about a third in hardware, a third in life sciences, and the third is a mix of other things. So that's it. We're going to talk about deep tech, and a few days ago I was listening to this podcast, maybe some of you know 20 Minutes VC podcast, this guy, Harry Stebbings, who's actually a giant in real life. He looks very young, but he's very, very tall. So he was talking with the partner from Spark Capital, and they were talking about IPOs and particularly SaaS companies. And the image is that, okay, software is cheap, and hardware or deep tech is very expensive, very slow, but actually they crunched some numbers at Spark, and they found out that the average SaaS IPO happens after 14 years. Pretty long. That's longer than the duration of the fund, actually, generally, 4 years extension. And the average money raised to get there is $300 million, which is also not small. And so that was kind of interesting as kind of a reference points to compare with deep tech. So what is deep tech? Feels a bit special actually to talk about that in Boston and in this area where we have the original Silicon Valley and probably the deepest tech there was and still is. But essentially, there's a bunch of different names for it: deep tech, hard tech, emerging tech, frontier tech, future tech. And it's a little bit difficult to define where they start or where they stop. Sometimes people say, I know one when I see one. But essentially, it's just not a simple website or app. Generally involves science and engineering, quite some R&D time. And there's often, but not always, a tangible component. It could be electronics, could be molecules of sorts. And that means that it involves generally more than one field of technology, not just computer science, but something else like physics, optics, chemistry. There's generally a significant tech risk, longer time to develop, and more capital required. So why bother with deep tech if it's so complicated and there's so much risk? Well, first, because it's the way to connect the physical and digital world, something that pure software can't do. So if you want to act on the physical world or the human body, you need that type of technologies. There's real needs in all sorts of industries, not just the software or tech industry. And there's also the opportunity for investors like yourselves or us is the fact that this sector is actually still quite underfunded. So there's a lot of opportunities, particularly at early stage. Our hypothesis is that what you see happening today in the car industry, in the automotive industry, is just the first in line. Of the electric vehicles, the AI that's revolutionizing that sector, that's going to probably replicate in other forms in other sectors. And the tech disruptors that used to take 20 years to overtake the incumbent, like Amazon did with Walmart, is going to take less and less time. It took about like 14 years for Tesla to become a bigger market cap than GM, even though these days Tesla has a bit of questions. But some companies are going to take less and less. So I don't know if you heard of Luckin Coffee from China. So it's a coffee company that uses a lot of mobile ordering, and they have really, really small shops. That company was created 2 years ago and just went public. And they have 2,000 stores now in China. So they became very large, very quickly, and already labeled like the Starbucks of China, just 2 years. Also acknowledging that there will be waves of innovation. So I mentioned Fitbit earlier, and you saw the first Fitbit was doing kind of generalized tracking, and then you saw a flurry of very specialized trackers in different categories, like for different sports or different things. And then you started to see trackers for like medical type of things, and now you see even therapy devices. So it's really different waves following these opportunities at each stage. Some examples, so John Deere, famous tractor company, bought a company called Blue River Technologies for $300 million. Blue River is essentially a computer vision company, computer vision and robotics company. And it's a company that specializes in weeding technology, so ways to get rid of weeds on fields. And that saves lots and lots of labor, and they got acquired. So it's a tractor company buying computer vision technology company. Another kind of interesting example is J&J, that's mostly famous for baby cream and some surgical stuff in an operating block. Bought a company called Illumask, which offers basically light-based treatment for skin conditions, particularly acne. And that's a way for J&J to enter a sector that's basically competing with pharma, but with a device. So the risks are there. There's tech risk, there's market risk, there's execution risk, but the opportunity is also there. And one of the appeals of deep tech is the fact that you build walls and moats. You dig moats. There's a lot of IP, and that alone can sometimes create a lot of value and lead to very strong successes. The question is, of course, whether your wall is actually useful and you can count your enemies from the top of it, and whether or not the moat you build is going to help you as well. There's been a few casualties. Just in the past probably 2 years, there have been about $1 billion worth of failures. Some expensive ones, as you can see. In consumer robots, there's a few casualties. The latest robotic casualties, the infamous or very spectacular Laundroid, depending on how you look at it, that robot to fold your laundry. So It doesn't always work, so sometimes you think you're building a moat, but you're actually building your grave, just developing technology that doesn't really have a lot of applications. It doesn't have a market. There's of course successes, so I listed here, it's kind of small, but you might see some. Number of companies in the deep tech space that have done really well, have reached $1 billion valuation or went public. And even in the old trends such as wearables, drones, and 3D printing, there's been a number of successes. So it's interesting to see that despite the hype cycle, there are some companies that actually achieve very good success. If we're talking about investment, probably should have also mentioned SoftBank. SoftBank has also invested in a number of companies in the deep tech space. I list them here. And you can see a lot of them are B2B or robotics or autonomous vehicle type of technologies. Not that many are consumer, but it's interesting to see the variety of companies they're backed. So the good news about deep tech today is that there's more and more startups, there's more and more investors, but there's still quite a lot of worries about the timelines, the cost, and there's still some funding gaps.